What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well. And we are now most of the way through our first day without an offensive coordinator of the year. The Seahawks fired Ryan Grubb yesterday, and as of me recording this video, have not replaced him, which you wouldn't expect them to replace somebody that fast, right? They shouldn't. If they do replace a coach that quickly, it means they didn't do a good enough job searching through the available options to find the best one. They just found something they liked and latched onto it. So I know that people are eager to dive into specific individual candidates for the offensive coordinator job for the Seahawks, and I will be doing that. I don't think the Seahawks are going to hire an OC in the next couple of days, so we don't have to rush this. I guess it's always possible that we do, but there are still 14 teams in the NFL playoffs. Why would you not wait for at least some of those teams to get eliminated so you could maybe gain access to a particular candidate that you really like from one of those teams instead of only allowing yourself to go through the teams that are either already eliminated or have already fired coaches or the coaches that didn't have a job previously? Like, you don't need to do that. You can let things sit a little bit as long as you're consistently moving. But as we go into this coaching search, there's one thing that I want to say now. Before I get into any specific names, there's one thing that I hope the Seahawks are bringing into this OC search. And the thing that I hope they're bringing into this search is an understanding of what happened with our last two offensive coordinator hires and an understanding of how to do things differently this time. And I would argue that doing things differently this time is more important than it would be even in a vacuum. So let's talk about our last two offensive coordinators. You had Shane Waldron for 3 seasons, 2021, 2022, 2023. And then Ryan Grubb for 1 season, 2024. Now, what did these two guys have in common? Well, they both failed here, ultimately. I think Waldron did much better than Grubb. Waldron did have one top 10 offense, and even in the years where the offense wasn't good, I think that there were more positive signs than what I saw from Grubb, but both guys failed. Neither guy was able to get a promotion after leaving. No, well, I guess Grubb still could. If anybody wants to hire Ryan Grubb to be a head coach, go ahead. And what else? What else do these two guys have in common besides just the fact that they didn't work out in Seattle? Well, Shane Waldron, let's start here. Let's take a look at his coaching history page. Let's zoom in a little bit. And let's look at what happened before he got to Seattle. So, 2020 and back. Spent 4 years with the Rams. And what was he doing with the Rams? Passing game coordinator, quarterback coach, tight end coach. Spent a year with the Washington Redskins, offensive quality control, so a low-level assistant. Spent a bunch of time in college, spent some time in high school, the UFL. Spent a couple of years with the Patriots coaching staff. Low-level assistant and a position coach, tight end coach, offensive quality control coach, graduate assistant at Notre Dame. So you look at that list of stops, and you will not see the thing that I'm looking for here, which is a single year, so much as a single year of acting as an offensive coordinator and calling plays for an NFL offense. He had 1 year in high school of actually being an offensive coordinator. So that's the thing that I'm marking in my head as we look at this. Now let's go to Ryan Grubb. Let's take a look at Ryan Grubb's page. And this is even easier because while you will find several years where he was an offensive coordinator and a play caller, like you've got 2 years at Washington before he gets to Seattle as an offensive coordinator / quarterback coach. Many years at Fresno State, coaching, depending on the year, offensive line, running game coordinator, offensive coordinator, associate head coach, quarterback coach. Depending on the year, he filled many different hats. You will find him being an offensive coordinator. You can go back to Sioux Fall in the early 2010s. He was an offensive coordinator at Sioux Falls. He was an offensive coordinator in high school back in 2013, in 2003, 2004. So he's been an offensive coordinator, but once again, you will not find a single year in his ledger of being an offensive, offensive coordinator, play caller for an NFL team. In fact, you will not find a single year of Ryan Grubb being an NFL coach in any capacity whatsoever. He never worked as a coach in the NFL before becoming the offensive coordinator in Seattle. So that is something else that Shane Waldron and Ryan Grubb have in common, and it's what I want to get into now. When you do something like this, when you give somebody a responsibility that they have never had before because of the elbows they've rubbed with and the people that they've had experience with, in the case of Ryan Grubb, you'd say maybe Kalen DeBoer, having one of the most prolific offenses in all of college football for 2 straight years. And in the case of Waldron, you'd say, well, he got to hang out with Sean McVay for an extended period of time, like 5 seasons, right? You're trying to hit a 500-foot home run. You're trying to find the next Sean McVay, trying to find the next Kevin O'Connell, trying to find the next Kyle Shanahan, the next wunderkind super genius head coach or OC, play caller, whatever. In this case, OC. But you're trying to hit that 500-foot home run. You're trying to find the guy that people don't really know about. He's a young up-and-comer. He's hungry to prove himself. So you go and get him, and you're trying to just crank that ball out of the stadium. But these 2 times we've done it, it hasn't happened. I don't think Shane Waldron was terrible here, but we didn't win anything with him. We had 1 good year offensively, and then he left. He didn't really get fired, I'll say that. He didn't get fired so much as he was just let go because Pete got fired and everybody got let go except for Carl Scott, because that's just how you do things in the NFL. But regardless, it didn't work because we didn't get anywhere with him. And same with Ryan Grubb. 1 year, didn't really get anywhere with him. Offense, if anything, regressed a little bit. In my mind, it regressed significantly, and he's gone. So when the Seahawks are making their decision on who to hire next, what I'm hoping is they look at this and they decide we're going to go the other way. And what I mean by that is the Seattle Seahawks, whoever they hire now to be their offensive coordinator and play caller for the offense in 2025, I want somebody who has at least some experience being an offensive coordinator and calling plays for an NFL offense at least a reasonably high level. Maybe he doesn't have to have produced the best offense or an elite offense. If he did, he'd probably be up for a head coaching job. But I want somebody who's done this before and proven that they can at least be viable. Because if we get that guy and next year goes wrong, I want to know that it's the player's fault. Like with Ryan Grubb, I couldn't say it was the player's fault because I had no proof that Ryan Grubb could succeed at the NFL. He had never even been in the NFL before. But get me a guy with experience who has proven he can do it, and that changes. So go get somebody who has had NFL success as a play caller. Somebody older, somebody with experience, somebody who knows the way this stuff works and has seen everything before. Because we have the youngest head coach in the NFL right now. Mike McDonald is the youngest head coach in football at the moment. Professional football. He does not need an inexperienced offensive coordinator trying to learn how to do things on the job while the season's going on and feel like he needs to devote some of his attention and some of his time to keeping him on track. Go get somebody who will stay on track on their own. Just try to make contact here. You tried to hit the 500-foot home run twice, which I thought was a reasonable idea when you had Pete Carroll, one of the oldest and most experienced head coaches in the NFL at the time. It makes sense that you would then say, okay, we can afford to try to take a big swing here and try to find the next guru, the next wunderkind. You don't need to do that now. In fact, it would probably benefit you tremendously to not do that now. Let Mike McDonald get his sea legs as an NFL head coach before you start putting stuff like that on his head. So there are going to be a lot of names tossed around over the next few days. Frank Reich is one of my favorites. You got Doug Peterson, a guy like a Zach Taylor. If he gets fired at this point, he probably won't be. You've got guys like, Mike McCarthy, if he gets let go by the Cowboys. You've got guys who have had NFL success calling plays. And if you get one of those guys, and the offense goes out there next year and doesn't improve, and we don't like what we see, then at that point, you got to say it's the players. You're not going to say it's, a play caller that's won a Super Bowl or had elite offenses previously, because they've proven they can do it. So there's nobody else to blame anymore. You can't blame the OC. You can't blame the coaching staff. At that point, you got to kind of turn it around and say, okay, players, you got everything you could have wanted. Now we got to blame you if things don't get better. So that is my number one thing I want to say right now. Not to say there are bad candidates that don't have this experience. There are guys who would be very appealing who don't have that experience, and I wouldn't hate getting them. But for this situation that the Seahawks are in right now, it is time to choke up and make contact and just try to get on base. Find somebody who we know can do it. Even if they don't do it at the best level, just find somebody who you know can do it at a good level. See you guys later. Go Hawks.